Of course, you all know where the title comes from. We all played a game when we were kids, pin the tail on the donkey, right? And a synonym for donkey is ass, and a synonym for ass is pastor. I know that. I'm not deaf. People tell me things. Fred, did you know? Yeah, I did. I may be an ass, but I'm not deaf. But this is the Sunday when I literally ask you to turn the tables and, like the Holy One did to Job, to question me. And I got a variety of comments this year. In some ways, this is the most intimate sermon I'd preach because it's in direct response to a particular concern, a particular query. In most years past, I've gotten spiritual things, biblical things, intellectual things. This year, there were a high number of those who wanted explanations, a little accountability. My answers, I hope, will be strong and as transparent as I can offer. For example, we had a series of questions that were kind of about how we treat visitors. One said, how unwelcoming is the church by having coffee in a locked kitchen, referring to the daytimes, not the Sundays. Another one said, have coffee available for a small charge for the groups that meet. Members could pay a fee in advance. The church is so unfriendly about this. We need to be a friendlier place, an inviting place. Now I'm going to give you a story. Why is the coffee not as available as it used to be? And for a long time, it was available. At one time, we had a coffee cart on the social hall floor and downstairs, and it was there with the hot water and the coffee pot, and it was available to whoever came in. However, it was never free in the sense that it was without cost. It was in our budget. Anyone here remember 2009, the Great Recession? Well, we had to look at everything at that point, and when you're spending $2,400 a year on coffee, half of which we threw away, and we were cutting salaries and benefits, it seemed to us at the time that less coffee could be spent on more salary for the staff. We did put out a contribution plate. Have you seen it? And people do contribute, but in general, it doesn't begin to cut the cost. And so the question I would put back to the questioner is, it's one thing to offer something without charge. It's another question to be foolish about resources. Help me figure the balance out. Questioner, for example, suggests that coffee is a way to be inviting, and it is. Nothing more calming on a cold winter day than to be able to come in and get a cup of coffee. But there are other ways we've been inviting, not always easily. When Occupy Grand Rapids was looking for a place to store their gear, we put them under our portico, which didn't please some of you. They were a little messy, let's be honest. But the challenge is to be inviting to people that we don't ordinarily see in our lives. Every day we are open that isn't Sunday, and sometimes on Sunday we see people coming through the door in need of food, shelter, transportation, people who do not and are not a part of the community. We also have a couple of people who do take advantage of us. Someone lost a valuable coat last week when it walked away. The complexity of being inviting, of being hospitable, doesn't go away. Coffee is one part of it for sure, but there are other ways we can be inviting and hospitable, and I think that we can do better in all of these. Help me find out what they can be. Someone else writes, we seem to be doing a good job bringing in new members, but we could get creative and do more to bring them in and maybe raise some revenue as well. Before there was Meetup, anyone here know what Meetup is? I'll explain in a moment. There were the young couples potlucks, and that had a chance for people to meet and start up new groups. Is this worth another try? Well, I got to tell you, I'm excited too that a number of younger faces have been dropping in. Often they are same-sex couples, sometimes they are families, and asking how we can find ways to help them find each other is a great question. And if I knew the questioner's name, I would ask you, though, how did that group start back then? Was it a minister who started it or a staffer? Or did the five people find each other? I need help. And today, would it be a couples group? We have a lot of singles, too. And if you're a single, being invited to a couples group is being invited to be a fifth wheel. It generally doesn't work. And do you mean to include same-sex couples or same-sex singles? And what about singles who aren't young but are middle-aged? Are they okay, too? Again, the complexity is daunting, but not impossible. And thanks for mentioning Meetup. Meetup is a smartphone app, and if those three words don't make any sense to you, the next sentence won't either. You download the Meetup app to your phone, and it tells you when people are getting together to do things, and you can decide whether to go, whether it's bike riding or going to a coffee shop or bowling. And you decide if you want to take part. And that makes me wonder something. Can we do a better job of promoting what people are doing? I'm looking at Todd Johnson right down there. He did not know I was going to mention him, but you've been running Men's Poker and Philosophy for a bunch of years now, certainly more than the 8. And I don't know if all the guys who want to know about it. We should find a way to reach the guys. Do we need an app? I don't know. But we have to do a better job of making sure people know all the things that are going on around here. How many of you know we have befrienders, trained pastoral listeners that Arlene Chittleborough and others put together? If you don't know, it's as good as if they aren't there. We should be asking ourselves how to open doors in ways that others don't even know exist. Another questioner says we should offer the chapel to other religious groups, and it also promotes diversity. And you're right. In fact, we had some initial conversations, but we discovered something. The other religious group usually wants to meet on Sunday. We kind of use the building a lot on Sunday. And they expect to grow, which means they want more space. And we want them to grow. But if it's hard to give them the chapel, can we give them the chapel? So the complexity of that relationship, it's all about complexity today, people, made it difficult. However, you should know that one of the reasons we can't do it the way we used to is that our early worship service is growing. All during the season until June, it was 35 to 45 people a week. Now, that doesn't sound like much to a room this size, but that's as large as the average congregation in America. It's a whole other church, and they're part of us too. So I agree it would be great, but it is difficult. Our friends at All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church rent their space from a synagogue Saturday, Sunday. It really works out for them. So maybe we should not be looking for another Sunday group, but maybe a rogue synagogue or an experimental mosque who would use it at a different time. That would also be a lot of fun, too. And even if a tenant and rent are impractical, I still think our chapel is a perfect place to extend the opportunity to worship in every way. We've talked about this for over 3 years. I'd like to start making that a reality so that whoever walks in there can say, my faith has a home here, too. Someone else suggests that we should start a daycare center, especially for the community college. Great idea. The Methodists have already done it. Darn those Methodists. In sign language, there are signs for all the different denominations. Do you know what the sign for Methodist is? They are eager to do things, and they did it. So I'm afraid the community college daycare center off the table. And Westminster, around the corner from them, has their own. The daycare center thing, I think it's kind of saturated downtown. But someone thought about drop-off babysitting, kind of an hour or two. We've looked into that, but then you have to meet the city and the state's guidelines about suitable spaces for kids. And believe it or not, our own space for our kids is fine. The moment you start selling it to someone else for a cost, you have to meet higher health guidelines, and that means it's more work. You see where I'm going? However, I had a thought. We used to have a really great bookstore cafe just 2 blocks away, Schuler's downtown. I love that place. Took Ruth there for lunch too many times. And they closed up because the costs were higher than the revenue they were taking in. I understand. We have a bookstore. We have coffee. We're not paying mortgage or rent. Perhaps there's a market for a book and cafe right here in our midst. Think about that. A way to make a little money and be that place that people stop in and come to call their third place in the world of modern technology. Let me turn over to finances. Someone asked a question about why don't we tell the names of the groups we give our money to in the bulletin, and we did. We did for a number of years, and there were like 20 or 30 of them over time. We stopped for one reason. People sometimes assumed that the money we were collecting that Sunday went to that group. And that's not true. Our Social Action Committee disperses it conscientiously between grant applicants. Have you been to our grant application process? You are missing out on one of the great things we do. Twice a year, the Social Action Committee extends knowledge that our funds are to be distributed and invites applications. 2 or 3 dozen at a time come in. And when they come in, they are asked to come here to church after church on a Sunday and present their case. Have you ever been to that meeting? You should go. People from all over Grand Rapids turn up to talk about what they're doing with kids on the southeast side, what they're doing with moms on the west side, what they're doing in the arts on the east side. People you haven't met. People who don't know us. But over the years, and I'm looking down at Paula and others, you've been to those meetings. Isn't it exciting? It is. And the best part is if you're on the Social Action Committee, you get to do something none of the people in church get to do and want to. You get to spend money. It's more fun than you think. So I'd love to be able to put all those names in, and I do mention 1 or 2 every week. But what's really exciting is not how excited we are, but how excited others are that we're doing this and building relationships with a football team on the south side for little kids. Is that fun or what? Come and learn about it. Be part of it. And it's cool to boot.